Welcome to All Worn Out. I'm your host, Warren Meredith. On the show today, Jordan Lowery. He's a vocalist, guitarist, songwriter in the band Lowery Mills. They're a rock band out of Kingston, Ontario, and they're awesome. Let's get into it now with Jordan Lowery. Hi, everybody. Welcome to All Worn Out. It's a podcast about music. It's a podcast about what you're passionate about. And it's a podcast about what our guest is passionate about. Super excited, thrilled. We're going to rock out tonight with the very cool, the vocalist, the guitarist. He's a wicked dude. I really think you should get to know him if you haven't already. Jordan Lowery of Lowery Mills.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You're making me blush there.
Well, I know that you're a good guy. You've always treated me really well, and everybody loves you. I mean, that's what we're going to get into. I think that you've got a few man lovers in this world who really just a few of us who really just appreciate your presence. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. So let's start. Where do we begin? Let's go back because I kind of want to know about Parham, Ontario. Because the band, you guys are from Kingston, right? Lowery Mills is from Kingston?
Yeah, like we say we're based out of Kingston, but we originated from about 45 minutes north of Kingston. And you say to somebody, it's like, oh yeah, I'm from Parham. Well, where the hell's that? You go a little up north there. Don't say the name too fast because you'll pass through the town. But just small town, man. Little small town vibes, and that's where it started from. And then we migrated into Kingston, and just it was easier to say we're from Kingston.
How many people about in Parham?
Well, that I'm not related to, maybe about 10. That's probably. Well, honestly, small town, man. Like I would be surprised if there was even 1,500 people.
Okay,
it's a small town.
Yeah, I come from Chesterville, and it's an hour outside of Ottawa, right? And it's got 1,500 people, I think, something like that, So it's, I like small towns.
Is it Sobeys or is it Freshmart? Can't remember what it is.
Well, Chesterville, when I was there, and I haven't been there in a long time now, but when I was there, Mike Dean's was independent.
Mike Dean's, that's what it was,
Yeah. And so I don't know. I'm guessing it still is. I think ran by his son now, but I'm not sure. I mean, Chesterville was good for that for many years. Small independent businesses that did pretty well for many years. And some still do. I mean, Louis' restaurant was always a staple for me growing up, and I mean it still is. If I'm anywhere near Chesterville, I need to go get one of those pizzas, and it
oh yeah, man, we used
brings
to do
me right back.
I did the floor work at must have been Mike Dean's, and I thought it was Sobeys, but it must have been Mike Dean's. And when we were on the floor and doing whatever renovations, and it was Louis, man, was like my go-to. Love that place.
Yeah, that's where I used to play chess at nighttime with Dino when I was still in grade school. And Dino is one of the owners. Well, he was the owner's son at the time, but now he's one of the owners. So, but I mean, what's great about Louis, while we're on the topic, is the secret sauce. So their pizza sauce is really good. It's really special, and they won't give up the ingredients. They won't tell anyone exactly how it's made. And I'll tell you how much so. So right up the road in Winchester is the Old Country Kitchen. And it was run and owned by the same family as the people in Louis, but the other brother and his wife kind of deal.
Oh, yeah.
And their pizza sauce is not the same. Their pizza sauce, it's not the same. And I'm telling you right now, that's how deep it is of a secret.
I said they broil down the hair of Fergie and Jesus, and that's how they got it. Because I'm telling you, man, I love Louis.
Yeah. So growing up in Parham, what did you do? Did you have friends nearby, or did you have to get on a bike and go for a trip? I mean,
small town, right? So like a lot of it was shoveling shit, farm boy, baseball, and just like at the end of the day, it was like really there's nothing to do. You like I'm related to everybody there, so like like all my cousins and we'd get together. We'd either go play at the schoolyard, was like literally like right next door. Snowmobiling, four wheelering, you know, when you get older and whatever. But yeah, like a lot of backyard parties, like horseshoe tournaments, fish derbies, you know, like just the old and country Nickwood kind of traditional, whatever, you know, like nothing spectacular, but
Nothing wrong with fishing, nothing wrong with skidooing or any of that stuff. I mean, it's stuff I grew up around, and I was never good at being a country boy. Well, I mean, there was no secret about that in town. But I mean, I was friends with everybody. You know, I didn't, and I've always had respect for the farmers out there and how much work they did and do, and like I know what it's like for them waking up at ungodly hours.
Oh yeah, man.
Just doing it all the time. It's like the more I learned about it, the more I was like, yeah, I want nothing to do with it. Like,
well, and like my family was pretty much on the brink out of it by the time I was like old enough, but like all the locals and everything too, right? Like, this one feller, like family farm, hundreds of years, like they've been there forever, eh? And you know, you go up help them, and actually like the one, well, there's two stores in Parham, so but one of my good friends, Joe Dupuy, he owned it, and so like we go up there, be splitting wood, whatever. But his dad actually used to raise pigeons, and he would need somebody to clean the pigeon coops. Like, oh man, I'm telling you, yeah, I would much rather shovel like hectares worth of cow shit than pigeon shit, man. Yeah, well, foul. It's just like in the dust.
This is fascinating. This right here is fascinating because the first thing that started flashing into my mind right away was Napoleon Dynamite. Yeah. And when he's doing the milk testing and he's there with the farmer and the farmer's like, lunch is served. And it's a bunch of eggs, you know, just eggs and that's it, and white bread. And it's like,
that's about it.
Right? and like Napoleon's job is to catch the chickens and put them into the cage. And so that's like the first thing I thought about was like these pigeons and you're shoveling their shit, which I like, my God. I know that bird shit is very acidic and it's nasty.
Well, yeah.
So.
And like the pneumonia smell, yeah. It just like it hits you and it's like, oh Jesus. Like,
so did you see any of these pigeons?
Oh yeah. Oh, they'd be right in the pan, like in the so what they were was the old some form of old trailers from like the 70s, like and anyway, so he you know, it's kind of like a traditional chicken coop where you got all the little roosts and all that, right? And he'd have, I don't know, oh Jesus, had to have been like, I'd have to say 50 per one, and it was like beautiful looking birds too, like I never even heard of any of this. Like it was crazy, like to race a pigeon, like how do you do that? But like Joey, you know, they got these little ankle bracelets. They have a point A and a point B. And I'm like, well, how do they know where to go? He's like, well, sometimes you lose some. That's why I got to have so many. Well, I guess nature takes its course, I suppose. But like, yeah, it's quite the thing. Big money in it too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. It makes me think about Mike Tyson and how his story of becoming a tough guy is that a bully killed his pigeon, his pet pigeon, and that like changed him, and he became this new person who was like not to be messed with anymore, and it was all triggered by the death of his pet pigeon. And then later in I'm not messing with you. And then later in life, he got pigeons, and I don't know if he still has them, but for many years he had like a whole bunch, like his own little coop filled with pigeons. Really? Yeah. So I folks at home, you can Google and tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. I do believe that Mike Tyson was emotionally triggered by a bully killing his pet pigeon. And this,
I feel bad for that bully, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, Mike changed. Supposedly he was bullied all the time. and he just was very quiet and would go off with his bird or whatever. And then, things
I go off my
changed.
bird, but not the same way, I suppose. But
I mean, I can imagine him getting bullied if he wasn't big and jacked, and like if he was talking with, well, the way Mike Tyson talks, I could see him getting picked on and bullied a little bit.
Yeah.
So speaking of the way we talk, you kind of have an accent, Jordan, or how would we describe it? Is it a valley accent? Is it?
Honestly, I've never noticed it myself, but like, I mean, my family, I don't know. We just call it the Parham accent. That's
Okay.
I don't know. I've had people like, at shows, or just out and about, and they're like, "Oh, are you from like southern states, or are you from Newfoundland?" I'm like, "Well, not southern states, but I mean, I did it. My grandfather, on my mom's side was from Newfoundland, so maybe that's it. But I don't know. Like, we all kind of have that twang, I guess it would be, or whatever it is.
It's interesting, and it is a twang, and there's varying degrees of it in the valley and all the way through this region. Because when I went to Toronto and I was in theater school, people there were telling me that I had a country twang. And I was like, what are you talking about? There's just no way. Yeah. And they were like, oh, yeah. They're like, you don't sound like a city person. That's for certain. And I was like, okay, interesting. I don't know how to take that, but okay. And so your character and your accent, it comes through in your music. And so that's kind of where I wanted to lead into to start was, is that kind of what inspired you to do Lowery Mills, to do music? Was it finding this voice and hearing it with music and going, this is awesome. I want to do this. I want to share this.
Yeah. So like for me, it was, like right from a young age, there's pictures of me actually, like when I was like 3-4 years old, and there's this toy guitar, and I've always gravitated towards the guitar. My grandfather played, but he only knew like 3 chords. And, I was always fascinated with it. I loved, Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash too. I loved Johnny Cash, but for me, it was like, I loved the way Waylon picked the guitar, and I loved Jerry Reed too. So it was like just them characters, right? So I'm like, I gravitated to that, and then I heard AC/DC for the first time. It was Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, and it was just that opening gong, and I was like immediately sold there. And I always wanted to play guitar, but I lived with my grandparents for a bit, and so anyways, my cousin Colin, he started playing guitar and whatever. He was more of a picker, and at the time I wasn't allowed to touch it because I don't want to break it, kind of thing. But he was quick to hop in and say, like, well, okay, well, here's my old guitar. Why don't you try this? And my grandfather, same thing. He supported into it. And my parents did too, like eventually, like, you know what I mean? Like once it was like, okay, he's serious about playing. And singing wise, I never thought, like, I was never looked at myself as a singer. I never actually tried to sing. My cousin Colin and I, we started a band in like grade 8, and we needed a singer. And it was like, well, who's got the balls to go out and do it? I'm like, well, I know the words. And it's just been a long time of just trying to figure out what it is that I do. My uncle Jim, I don't know what it was, but just growing up, he always had this like snarl in his voice. He'd be like, get over here, like, or whatever, like that, and I was
yeah.
I don't know why, but I always just like, there's something about it that I was like, it was just like, it was genuine. It was unique. It got your attention. So I think for that, and then like he gets singing too and whatever. And it's just like, I like the growl that he had to his voice. And so I think subconsciously I just kind of started doing it, and then try to expand on it over the years and get better with it and learn to control it too. Like in the early days, it would be just like belt. And I know I'm a big, loud singer, but in the early days, it was like really pushing it. And like 3 songs in, you're like, oh, so yeah, I don't know. I never really put much thought into it though, aside from just like when people finally started asking me, and then I'm like, oh, That's the only thing I can think of. Like, yeah. And
No,
with
yeah, I
Lowery
mean,
Mills, we just, I don't, it's kind of what comes out. Like somebody could hand me whatever a song and like, I have my own style to playing, I guess. And you know what I mean? So it's like, it's going to come out whatever way it's going to come out, regardless if I try to do it true and true to something. So yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, that's the whole thing is I think you have a great natural character to your voice. And I think it does come with a cool story that connects back to this place, Parham. And I wouldn't downplay it. I think this is the thing. I think this is why country music is so popular in Canada is because we have all these rural patches all over the place that connect us together. I mean, these city things, they're kind of a rarity in this country. And the reality is you've actually got all these tiny towns and little communities all over the place. And so I think, yeah, I do believe it's impacted me, and I think it's definitely impacted you. And I can hear it, you know. And you're talking about like outlaw country, and we just I just had Brian Stevenson on here last week. And
yes.
He was talking about the same. He had a Waylon Jennings hat on. It was very cool hat because I think it was period authentic. But anyways, yeah, very cool hat. And people were commenting in the comments already like, I need that hat. And I'm like, good luck. But yeah, he was saying similar things to you about his love of that genre of music. And he was relating a lot of it back to Willie Nelson and saying that like Willie Nelson was a big guy for like inspiring or kind of helping with the guitar patterns, or you know, he's another one of those guys in that group.
And he's very underrated guitarist too. Like, I mean, I love Willie Nelson. My grandfather and I's favorite song to sing together was "On the Road Again." Like, it was just like, and then when I got to a point that I could actually start picking out like notes, I like, it's such an underrated solo, that nylon guitar that he did, like that just any guitar work Willie Nelson ever did is so underrated, man. Like, his songwriting, even like, I don't think necessarily he's underrated, but I don't think he really gets the hype that he should.
Yeah, it's true. And it's because that genre of country kind of I don't know what you would say. It's not that it died out, because again, Brian was talking about Tyler Childers and Chris Stapleton, and
I love Chris Stapleton.
Right? And these guys who are just like, they're next level songwriters. It's like almost shameful to call them country artists because they're not in the same league, right? They're doing something a little bit more raw, and they're doing something kind of old school. And I think, and I like it. I like it a lot. It's kind of Nashville. It's one side of Nashville for sure.
It is. It's like the dirty side of Nashville. And that's what I've always loved with that stuff. And you know, like growing up, like, don't get me wrong, I love country music, but I was never one for the slow country. Like, ever since I was a kid, I was never for that slow twang, 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 like nothing like that. It was just always upbeat and go. And like I don't know, as much as I know what I sound like, what I come across as, whatever, and like, I mean, I guess my roots, it's like, I guess I'm kind of like you in that. So I never looked at myself as this country boy. I just like, to me, it was just a normal. But now when I went into the cities, it was like, oh, you're not from around here. Like, no, you know. But I love it. Yeah, like with Chris Stapleton and that, like his voice, like the amount of soul that's in it, the amount of like, even his playing, like once again, he's an underrated guitar player, like just insane, man. But I was always more rock, like, and it's funny because like I love all these country music artists, but I was always like gravitated into rock. And I know like my grandmother and whatever would have loved that if I just did like old style country and just kind of stuck country and whatever. But I'm like, that outlaw sound, oh man, I love that.
Yeah, I think it's part of rock. I think it turned into being a part of rock music eventually. And it's why we can cover Johnny Cash, we can cover the guys we mentioned there, and it's no problem to translate it to rock music.
Yeah.
I think it's part of it's part of it. It's interesting. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. And rock music. Okay, so you were talking about AC/DC and the first time you heard AC/DC and how that kind of blew your mind wide open. I mean, I think there's several bands like that. AC/DC had to do it for a lot of people. Queen, Metallica, those bands come up all the time on here as well. Pantera comes up a lot as a band that people will say changed them. Tool comes up 5, 6, 7 times on this show as well by people saying, you know, Tool changed me, changed the way I saw music. So I think, you know, there are these bands in rock that were just so powerful and presented themselves to us, and it was easy for us to go to. I mean, that was where the excitement was.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like ZZ Top was a big one for me too. I love ZZ Top. Anything like blues driven. And I think that's what I narrowed it down to, because I love the blues. Like, Chris, our drummer, he got married this year, but, before we went to go check out this band, and I think he doesn't look at me like that I like blues and jazz and whatever, eh? So we went to the Atomic Rooster, and that's where we seen this band that he was going to hire. And I haven't been there since before COVID, so it was like nostalgia too. I'm like, oh, I love this place. We watched this band, and after they got done, they were amazing, man. Like funk, R&B, and like I love it all. And well, what was he? I think he was a sax player and he was a guitarist. And I can't remember the name of the place, but it was some jazz club. And these guys, man, just sat, and I was just in awe the whole time. And I sat there and I was just like mesmerized into this. And Chris kept looking at me like, you actually like this? Like, yes, I actually like this. Like, but I guess I just don't come across as like somebody that would listen to jazz. I'm more like would watch it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't go out of my way just like, oh, that's a really good thing that I want to get into. But yeah, man, there's so much good stuff that has been moved over into rock. And it's like, I find there's a lot of bands, like even on the indie circuit, they're just underrated. And it's like, you listen to some of their influences and it's just like, really? But then when you listen to it, you're like, oh yeah, I know 100%. I can hear that now when you take a second listen, eh? Like, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Like talking about the music business and bands that should, you know, have more success by now or have more fans or whatever it is. I mean, it's a difficult time. I've been talking to so many artists on here about what it takes to get to another level or whatever it might be. And, you know, some people might say, oh, well, you got to pack a place with 500 people and, you know, then go do it in another city. And, you know, this is how you get noticed. Or maybe other people would say you have a song, you need to get that song over 1 million plays on Spotify. You know, maybe someone says you got a tour. Maybe it's all of these things combined, and more. But I mean, the truth of the matter is, it doesn't happen very often. At least not in the open, in the way that people like. You don't often see bands get picked up and then moved. You know what I mean? Into this other realm. But you and I, we have witnessed it, or worked with bands. Like for example. Ross Hasatrillo, the gentleman who produced the 2 Taming Sorry albums, he's going on tour now with the Sheepdogs. Yeah. And going to do like a bunch of dates in Europe. And I know they're going to kill it. I already know the Commoners. I played with them before they went on tour, before they did like 60 dates in Europe. So I know that now they are going to be incredibly, incredibly tight. So I've got, you know, they're an example of like a band who's worked really hard over the last 2 years. Well, for a long time, but the last 2 years, lots and lots and lots of touring in Europe. And it looks like it's starting to pay off dividends for them. But I mean, this is the thing is, so you've seen it with the Lazies, right? You're friends with friends with Leon.
Yeah.
And they're a band, right, that kind of got picked up as the Lazies and moved into the next realm. And that was done kind of by Billy Talent's Ian
Yeah,
D'Souza,
Ian
right?
Guitar, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a vetting thing, right? Where you hear about comedians vetting for comedians or musicians vetting for musicians, and you kind of need that person to stand up and say, no, like this person, I'm willing to put my name on them. Like I'm willing to say they're not going to mess up. It's on me. You kind of need that in the arts.
Yeah.
So, but the problem is now we have all these gatekeepers that are unrelated to anything, any scene that we're a part of. It's unrelated to Ottawa. It's unrelated to Kingston. It's only related to things like Spotify or whatever it might be, festival related or whatever. And it's like, we're just there going, how do we get into these circles? Like how do we network into this?
Well, and
Because
it's so tight. Like it's like even if like something as simple as like whatever festival, like Joe Blow's festival. Yeah, you might have a general info email, but most of the time it's just getting dumped down. They probably have so many people emailing to begin with, but until you know a person that knows somebody else in that, you're not getting in. Like, and it's crazy, and it's like I get there's got to be some kind of barrier, so you know what I mean. Like you can kind of pick and choose. You're not getting an influx of like, I'm 16. I just learned to play guitar last year, and like my band's awesome. Can I get in? Like, and I get there's got to be like some kind of that, but like, yeah, man, it like, well, like, the Sons, Glorious Sons. That's another prime. I played with those boys when, they were me, and we were doing the landmark showcase in Kingston, and it was just like they just kept progressing and progressing. We got into like the second, third round with them at the end, and Black Box just they had a representative in Montreal, and that's where it happened. They got signed right there. And then next thing you know, they're on whatever little tour, and then all of a sudden it seems like they blew up. Like.
Well, the world respects them very much.
Oh yeah,
songwriting wise. What's his name? It's Brent,
Brett.
right?
Yeah, Brett Evans.
Brett.
Yeah, he's an amazing lyricist. Like,
and that's the thing. He writes very, very good lyrics, and not once or twice, but pretty much every song. And the hooks are there,
like, especially the early
right?
stuff. When you listen to the B-sides, man, like there's some deep stuff in there. Like,
yeah.
Like,
and he's writing kind of like the Arkells, where the hooks are everywhere. Like, and they're thinking about it that way. They're not just thinking about, oh, we need a really good hook in the chorus. I had a country artist on here not long ago, and she goes to Nashville and spends like a month at a time there and goes to all these writers' circles. And they're just concerned about hooks in general. Like, they're just concerned with, okay, well, how do you hook the intro? Where's your hook in the verse? How's that going to link to this hook here and link to that hook there? And if you don't have it all, it won't, that's what makes these songs special or next level that we'll love is the hooks are everywhere. They're thought about really well. And it brings me to one of the songs I was listening to before our interview, Striking Like Thunder. And I think that's very hooky. That song was super hooky and got me kind of singing along with it. And good video too. And you guys have an upcoming EP soon, right?
Yeah. So actually, we've just been having a lot of technical issues with the EP. So we're going to bring out a 5-track EP. And if everything plays out right, we have a whole whack ton of stuff to get recorded even yet still. Now, this album, we were deciding that we're going to try to, so Ben Erickson is our producer and an engineer, and he did like Striking Like Thunder and Won't Let This Fire Die, Hurricane. And we love Ben. He's like the fifth part of Lowery Mills. He will always be a part of Lowery Mills. And so we said to him, though, like, cause he's in Toronto, and we're like, we were kind of in a limbo-esque mode, and we're like, Chris has like a long McQuaid in his basement. So it's like, we could figure this out. Chris started like learning like little engineering things, like as far as recording, and we've been making like good effort on it. It's just like little things you don't realize. It's like the phasing of microphones, the just the way it's recorded, like just so many little things, eh? So it's all there. We end up doing the drums in Westport, which is just north of Kingston as well, but awesome little studio. And like the guys and I were all talking, hey, and we're like, we should have just did it all right then and there. Like just line up and play and be done, whatever. But no, it's coming, and yeah.
Depending on what you want to get out of out of the song, out of the EP, you kind of, gosh, it's really hard to do things yourself as a band with recording because of that personal attachment. And like you said, all these things keep coming up that you'll be like, oh shit, there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this. That can be overwhelming. And then you can get to that point where like, I don't know if it's done. I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's bad. I've been there. I've been in this situation myself. And that's kind of why I was like, no, I'm going to go. I need somebody who does this like all the time.
100%.
Like, you know, someone who's able to grind it out. Like, you know, like they're not going to grind me out, but they can if they need to.
Exactly. You're there to, and that was always our thing. We're there to work. You know, it's like, so at the end of the day, we're doing whatever's best for that song. So just cut her straight to the point and whatever. And like, that was like striking like thunder. That was actually the first song Leon and I ever worked on together. So Jay Mills, he had that opening, da 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 da, and then I just out of fluke responded with it. And that's kind of where, and I'm like, I love that riff. It's just immediate. It's there. Bang. And he had a couple little cool licks. Like we went around back and forth. The original song was called Burning from the Belt Down, and it was about chlamydia. Yes. Yeah. So.
Also, AKA pissing razor blades.
Yes. And it wasn't me that started the lyrics either, but I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. It'll be funny. Blah, 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 blah. And the original version was all right. But I'm like, and I always knew too, I'm like, oh, this feels like a waste. You know, it's like, there's so much there. We need to take a point to come back and look at this. And that's where Leon come in. He's like, you know, show me what kind of material you got, blah, blah, blah. And I showed him this. He's like, oh, mate, that riff. I'm like, I know. Like, this is the one that I'm like, yeah, like, and at the time, I just met my wife, and we were going back and forth on names and like little different ideas. Originally, we were like, okay, maybe let's change it to like a party rock kind of vibe, whatever. And I got the idea of just striking like thunder, and I was like, oh, that's stupid because thunder doesn't strike. And then Leon was like, no, that's it. You got to get that bumper sticker. And I'm like, okay. You know, there was really interesting working with him because like, obviously he's worked with Ian, right? So it's like, now he's implementing what he's learned into like trying to teach me and coach me of it. And man, I learned a ton. It was like,
yeah,
little syllables. Like, I want to say this, but does this sound too simple, or is this too complicated? And Leon just has a natural way to be able to like on the spot. Like he as a lyricist, I feel is like, as Lazy's as a whole are kind of like an underrated band. You know, like he was taking, when him and I were going back and forth, I'd say one little blurb, and then it'd be like, oh, well, what about this? Then we just kind of meet in that middle. And it was such a fun experience, man. Like, and it just like, at the end of the day, I love the song. Like at the time I was like, is this too like mainstreamy kind of like vibe? And I'm like, I don't know, but I still would have kind of wrote it out similar to, you know, like, so. But
I think it reminded me a little bit of outlaw country in the melody, in the way that you present it. Like, it just brings me, it's even Southern rock. It's classic rock, but it's, again, that I can feel that outlaw presence in this song. And I really can. And striking like thunder, well, maybe you're getting hit in the face. I don't know. There's a lot of things that could be happening here. with that chorus. And that's, I think, why Leon was like, no, this is good. Because this chorus immediately makes the brain go, what? Striking what? Striking where? How? And thunder and what? And then there's multiple outcomes, right? And that's what you want.
Oh, 100%. And like it's the learning not to second guess myself, because on the other side of it, there's an eraser on the end of a pencil, or now I guess your phone, you got a backspace. So it's like, if I need to rewrite this over and over, it's like, just get it out, and that was the thing. Like the bridge, even like the bridge to the song didn't come out till we're literally in the studio, and we had the music there for it. We're like, yeah, we want to do this little like breakdown thing. And it was kind of done on the fly. Like I said to Leon, I was like, oh, I got a few little ideas, but I don't know if it's cliche and whatever. But like, he's like, oh, let's just run it, And so we got to the point, and I love them lines of the bridge, and I don't know why it stuck to me. Like, I want to ride this lightning, never let the storm in. Yeah, baby, you're striking like thunder. It was like, it was the simplest, just 3 lines, repeat it. But it was just like, it fit so well at the time. And we were just like, okay, there we go. Now this is the real process, like the professional wise, not a bunch of idiots.
When songs click like that, like Lego pieces, and you're kind of like, what? How'd that fit so perfectly like that? And it's just like, that's how amazing our brains can get. And when we start building it in our mind, and then all of a sudden you pull the pieces together, and it starts going, wow, it's working. And like you said, like the learning from Leon, getting that opportunity to work with him artistically, like that's what it's all about. I mean, that's what, bottom line, like that's what it's all about. Like getting out, working with people who know more than you, and if you get that opportunity in any field, it's like you win. That's a great thing. It doesn't matter what job you're doing, like, but the fact that you're doing creative and you're doing writing, I mean, that's something that I think a lot of people worry about when they're recording, is their wording, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned it, like a few words can make a big difference. Like taking out, I find reducing is normally my thing. Like I'll write it out full, and then I'll get in there and I'll just start scratching off words, because I'll just be like,
that's exactly what I do too. Yep.
Don't need this word. I don't need I don't need my, or whatever it is, right? And I take out those pronouns or whatever it might be, and identifiers, try and open it up more. And then I allow wackiness to enter my mind too. Sometimes, down with the devil, like, yeah, sure, the lyrics are about a love affair or whatever, but the thing is that in my mind, that I was playing it at the time, it was election time in the States, and on TV all the time was Hillary and Trump, and I remember thinking about them bantering back and forth at each other if they were in love. And if you listen to the lyrics, it kind of works out.
I love that. I love that song now. Like when you're saying that, I'm like, oh, okay, now I can see that. Yeah,
kind of interesting. It's two people bickering, but when I envisioned in my head like two people bickering, for some reason, it was just because it was on the media all the time at that point. So that's what came into my mind, and then afterwards it kind of worked, and I was like, well, it works like in many scenarios, but that's what we want. Again, we want it to apply more than one place.
Well, like an open interpretation, man. Like, and that was one thing I learned too. It's like, you can say 40 different things in one subject, or like subject line. Like, you know what I mean? Like for somebody to take it a whole other way. And I'm like, and at that point, it just clicked with me. I'm like, holy shit. Really? Yeah, I can. Like, and it's, to me, it should be obvious now, but then no.
I mean, Leon, because they did half-mast blues, I think that people should have more awareness of their writing ability and his writing ability, because that's taking a very literal idea or a very literal topic, and then he exposes on it in not literal ways, and hits all these hooks all along the way, like doesn't miss any. No. And it's a very well-written song, like, to me, lyrically, musically, melodically.
Oh,
and there's lots of examples. But writing hooky rock music is not as easy as people might think.
No,
And no, and having the energy to perform them correctly is the other part of it. I mean, that's why like David Lee Roth is so legendary, and I can say whatever I want about him and like be like, it's not for me. That guy brought the fire, he brought the hype, he brought the energy, and he was, he matched that Van Halen power from the guitar.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, that's what you got to do, and Leon is amazing at this. I've got to play 3 shows with him, open for him 3 times. I think you probably opened for him like a bajillion times.
I think we were only 3 or 4 too, because like him and I got close in COVID, right? So
yeah, like you've been on stage, you've sang on stage with them, right? Like they pulled you up on stage.
And I love that too, man. Like it's like, well, just recently, last month we played with them, and it was like, hey, mate, like we need another band. Are you guys available? And like 3 days before the show, like, yeah, woo, let's go, and just to hop up, like it's like he's one of those guys that is just lovable to begin with, but like I feel like we connected so well where it's like we can go a month or 2 without, talking to each other, and then it's like the phone will ring. Well, Facebook when he's over in Australia or whatever, and then we'll be on the phone for like an hour and a half. You know what I mean? And it's like just you catch up and shoot the breeze, and it's like get talking about music, song wise, and but like even their new track, "Ripper of a Night." I remember him showing me the phone recording in my apartment at the funeral home in Parham, and it was just like, "What do you think of this?" And I was like, at first it was just like him and his acoustic. I'm like, "You show me the chords because it's it's too muffled." And then he got singing. I'm like, "Oh yeah, man, that's fun." And like hearing it back now, it's like, yeah.
What do you do at the funeral home, if I may ask?
Well, I'm not at the funeral home anymore. But when I was there, when I was there, I was I guess you'd say the funeral director's assistant, but like everything.
Like your family, that was like a family business kind of thing, or
so friends of the family, the Goodfellows owned it. Well, that funeral home's been there for 100 and some odd years, and it was just always generational. And at the time I was renting the apartment, and Dave, the owner, offered me. It started kind of as like maintenance, and then curiosities, and getting exposed to a little bit more things, and just going over, cleaning up the funeral and like do a mop, whatever. And then it's like, there's somebody there. And then that evolved into like learning how to do makeup and other things, and I love that job, man. Now I'm sling recycling. So
hey man, I'm glad that there's people who can handle that stuff, who are cool with that stuff. Because like I find it fascinating, but I wouldn't be able to do it, and I wouldn't be.
It's a lot. It is a lot. Like when especially in a small town, man, like 90% of the people that come through your door, and it's like,
yep.
But it's such a fulfilling job, and it's like, when I got into it, I gained so much more respect for all those guys, because it's like, I learned so much on that job, but it's like these scenes, like a car accident. It's like, it's not an ambulance. Of course, like the paramedics that will see it too, yes, but it's not the paramedics that can transfer. It's the funeral director who has to transfer. So it's like you literally see everything,
I know. I have a friend. And a friend went to Humber for it, and then graduated, and then was working at the funeral home. And she'd be over, and her pager at the time would just go off, and she would just, at whatever time, and she's like, I gotta go. And we wouldn't ask why, because we knew why. She's going to pick someone up at the hospital, or from the hospital, right, and bring them back to the place. And so I learned a lot from her about some stuff that people might find grotesque or whatever. So I don't want to go there and spook anybody. And be respectful. But that's the thing, is like, it is such a respectful job. Like she really communicated the same thing to me about it being fulfilling, and that it's like you have a job to do. It's a purpose. It's like, you got to do this for the family. You got to do this for this person. And they don't get a say in it. So you really got to give it everything. And so, yeah, I just think it's fascinating.
And it's weird. I mean, it's obviously it's not great that somebody passed, but it's like, that's what I was sitting with the families, working with the families, and just delivering just that I don't even know the words you really use. I can't really describe it. It's like, it's just such a great feeling, man. Like to be able to help them through that hard time. And it's fun. It's a little like fun little bar thing. Like, oh, what'd you do? Well, I used to bury people. It's like,
yeah. Well, there's a guy here in Ottawa. There's a band that's been around for many, many years called Big Jesus Truck. And
I don't know if I heard them.
You'll like them. And so like one time they had a mean article written about them in this Ottawa Sun for being too loud at Blues Fest one year. So they're a pretty raucous bunch, and they've been around a long time. And their lead singer, I'm trying to remember, I think his name's Slim Reaper is what they call him. And he at the time was a gravedigger. So that's why they called him that, because like for many years he was a gravedigger. So I mean,
there's a job here, man.
yeah. There's a storyline, that you can thread through with it, with things. And I mean, to me, I kind of think of it like when we're on stage, I always tell people this and they get kind of freaked out, but I tell them, like, I believe that what we're doing on stage is we're performing ritual magic. And like frontmen are essentially priests. But we don't, but it's like, what are we channeling, right? What energy are we channeling? We've got free range. We can go light, we can go dark, we can go fun, we can do really whatever we want.
Yeah.
And you see all these different people are channeling this. And so to me, it's like a ritual, and you go up, everyone knows what they're doing when they buy their tickets, and they go in, and there's lineups, and there's places to stand, and the stage, blah, blah, blah. You don't go there, but you can go there.
Yep.
And then we take them through this journey. And many, many years ago, when I was like 18, when I thought about, should I maybe consider going into the Anglican priesthood? And the answer was no, of course. But when I was thinking about it,
amazing priest, though. I'd go to that.
Thanks, man. Thanks. And I think it would be definitely interesting when I get into the aliens and whatnot, and what I think about that. But at the time, what attracted me to the idea is a lot of what you're talking about. Like, I realized when I was that age, realized that the priest was with people when they were born, when they are sick, when they are married in good health, and when they die. And at the birth of their children, all that stuff. And I was like, that's heavy. Like, being with people in the beginning to the end. And you will, in some cases, just like a doctor sees some people from birth to death. And, it's trippy, but it's, again, at the time I was thinking about it as like an appealing thing. And now as a musician, like I said, I kind of think we are like musical, at least gateways. We don't have to call ourselves priests, but we are like musical gateway energy into this whole other,
man. Like when
experience.
When you're up there as a front man, like your main job is to bring everybody together. The band has their job, obviously, and like as a unit, you need to have that one thing. But as a front man, and like just from watching and learning and whatever, it's like you need to take control of that room. You need to give them that, whatever time you're on that stage, they need to keep eyes on you. And it needs to just feel like 5 minutes for them. It just goes by so quick, and they're in that one moment, and they just stick to you. And it's a hard job. I'm sure you've had like them rooms that are just like, just
cold, cold.
Oh
yeah.
Man.
Or I've been in all. Yeah, I'm just, dude. Like, oh man. So many memories just flashed before my eyes. Like my life ended. I had all these band memories going, whoa. but yeah, like these things happen to us all the time, and we're we're trying to guide the room and like keep it going in the right direction, make everyone feel like they belong, like they should want to have a good time, be good to their bar staff, tip and
Yeah.
everything, and be happy. And I saw video footage of you just the other night at out supporting our good friends in Nighttime Drive.
My boys.
And yeah, man, that's what I was gonna say. Is like those are some of your guys, that you're tight with, and I love those guys too. They're
Oh,
very supportive. They're very friendly. They're very open. There's no ego, which is very refreshing. Believe it, folks, or not, there is some egos in
oh
this
man, yeah.
in this game that we're playing in. But I mean, when you meet people like Jordan, when you meet people like Jay in Nighttime Drive, and those guys, it's like they're so talented, but also like so down to earth, good soul people. And
Dude, like we become best friends so quick, and it was like I just yeah, like it was like natural right from the get go, and like if the same thing with Jay, it's like if we don't chat for about a week, normally that's about as far as it goes. We send voice messages between messages because like just with my job and his like conflicting and blah blah blah. Like it's like, and I'll just go back in my messages and it'll just be like this the great big long thing of just like voice notes, like back and forth, man. Like I am so grateful to have found them guys, and regardless musical journeys doesn't matter. Like if the day ever come that we're just like going back to just playing whatever little cover things here and that, all four of those guys I would always go meet up with, go have coffee with, go wherever. Like I really respect them, and as musicians they are like wow, all of them. Rocky, man, whew, Jay's voice and like the whole persona of the band, you got
I
that
agree.
that big monstrous voice. You got a monstrous guitarist. You got like just the connection between Mark, Mike, and Jay, like all
Yep.
being family, man. Like it's like it does not get better than that.
I agree. I think it's they've got something really special going on, and I agree with you that Rocky is going to catch people's attention and pull them in, and Jay's voice is going to pull them in, and people will have a good time. But again, I think they're a great band. Like when we played with them, I thought it was a great fit. When I've seen you play with them, I think it's a great fit. I mean, you were at my show. You were at the Taming Sorry show as well in Kingston.
Yeah,
I mean, rest in peace to the Blue Martini.
yeah, I know. Right?
That was a really great venue in my opinion. I
I
really
love
really
that band.
enjoyed.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that stage and the effort and everything that went into it. And of course, you were there singing and being awesome. So I mean, you're friends with rock stars, but you don't let that jade you, right? It's not. You're friends with
we're
some.
all human, man. Like at the end of the day, at the end. I'm no different than the guy sitting down in the crowd. If anything, I'll go make a fool of myself on a stage if I need to. Like regardless to who I've met, like along the time I've been doing this, I don't know. I'm always going to be me, and I hope that anybody knows me, holds me to that, and can vouch for that because it's like, no, I don't like arrogant people, and if you've sold out Wembley Stadium and you sold 100 million records, like good on you. If you're an asshole, I'm going to
Yeah,
tell you you're an asshole.
yeah.
And
And
I'm
just
not
because
going to
you
want to
did
share a beer
those,
with you.
there you go. And that's, hey man, and they should know better. If they've had all that success, they should know it's all about that, having somebody pretty much feel comfortable enough to have a beer with you.
Yeah,
That's pretty much what it's all about. And if people are willing to sit with us and share in our art, like it's a blessing, it's a gift every single time. I know it, you know it, and people that don't know it, I feel bad for. I honestly, sincerely feel bad for people who never get that satisfaction of knowing they made someone's night, and that's not good enough for them. For
yeah,
me, it's always something I never let go, even if I've had a bad night or what I consider not great.
yeah.
I'll still remember that I got a present, I got the gift to present and share, and it was cool, you know?
Well, like fulfilling jobs, for instance, like that's that. Like, you know, I try to talk with everybody that comes out to our shows and whatever, at least at the very least, thank them, you know, and just like, you know, and a couple things I've heard is just like, oh, you know, it's a really crappy week and blah, 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 blah. You guys were great. And like, just like we took them away for that, whatever, however many hours in that week that we're just ticking you off and there's something's not right. But for that half hour, whatever time we were playing, we took you away from that. And to me, that is the best compliment that you could ever get. And I love the criticism too from some people. You know, I love just hearing back. It's like, you know, I like what you did, blah, 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 blah. I think you should try to do something different, or it seemed like a little intense, or it seemed like little crap like that. And I know there's some people that are afraid to say that to, like, I don't know, say you and I, right? But I love that kind of stuff. And that's what I love playing live music, man. I love getting out there and just like the amount of interesting people you meet and just like the stories you hear. And it's like, yeah, you know, some of them, when some guys like fall over and give me whatever story, what's the credibility to it? I don't know. But I mean, hell, it made me laugh, or it was like, you know, like it's a good time.
Oh,
so
gosh. Yeah. I mean, it's taken me mostly good places. And if it wasn't, it was kind of funny, to be honest with you. So, I mean, and it all worked out. I want to ask you about, where is it now? Well, your performance at the Bovine. That was, how long ago was that?
it was August 4th. So not,
Okay.
a little over a month ago.
And so I saw there's like live video of that, and that looked pretty good. I wanted to hear more of your vocals talking about criticism. I wanted more of your vocals for clarity's sake, but that's just because I want to sing along. But I thought it was awesome and sounded really good.
Thank you.
And yeah, and then also I saw that you're doing a battle of the bands.
Yeah, so that was kind of last-ish minute. The Do It for Aaron Festival, this will be the sixth year running of it. And I attended it a couple different times, and I don't know exactly the whole backstory. I know there was a younger fella that loved music, passed away, and then I think it's his parents that keep this festival going. But in the Reckless 4 days, I attended it a couple times, and I loved it. That's great bands. It was like great locations, whatever. And a friend sent me the ad of them looking for bands. Now it was like a month old or something, right? So it's filled up now. But I was like, an hour later, like, yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna send them an email or whatever, and just, I don't know, if they get back to me, they get back to me. If they don't, they don't. And yeah, like a day later, they emailed back like, oh yeah, no, you're in. I'm like, oh, all right, cool, right on. So like, yeah, man, we're pumped. Like the last couple times I was there and attended, like the musicianship is just insane. And it's like, there was like, I can't ever remember some of the names of the bands, but like, I mean, a lot of them aren't around anymore now. So that's why I'm really looking forward to this year. Cause I'm like, okay, perfect. Rockville, we're pretty close. Everybody, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's great cost, free show at that. So, I mean, you can just walk in and yeah.
And you can win prize money, right? Like the winner gets some cash, eh?
Yeah, I think like $1,500 or something.
There you go. That makes it worth it. That makes it even more worth it. But I mean, the fact it's a charity thing makes it worth it all alone. You're going to a different city, but it's nearby, so it works with your network. Like it's a win-win-win-win-win. So that's gonna be really good.
The last time we ever played the Trews was like, Brockville's for the Trews and Northern Pikes, right? So it's like, but that's at the Regatta, which is like this big outdoor festival stage setup. And just trying to find spots like close to Kingston that we can, you know, try to get out of the circuit a little bit where we can jiggle around. It's not too far away, but you know what I mean? Like,
I hear you. And how did you get to speak with the Trews? Did you get to talk with them at all?
Yeah. Yeah, they're cool dudes, man. Like, yeah, like they welcomed us right in. Like, really, we didn't really have much of a setup, whatever, but like they had their camper trailer and whatever. And like food wise, we were providing food. That was pretty cool. That was the first time I ever been to a show that I actually got fed too. So yeah, man. Oh yeah. It was great show. Great guys that, sit there and they obviously they're busy and they got their routines that they do for shows, but like never once were they hesitant on, talking or just whatever. And actually, funny story, Jay was actually drumming for us at the time. And Chris Gromley, I can't remember his last name, but something along that line. Anyways, somebody screwed up, and I imagine somebody got fired because drums were left and cymbals were left in Toronto. Oh yeah, and just like and maybe that was like kind of the icebreaker too. It was just like Jay and I were like, we overheard it, and we're like, dude, like, I mean, they're probably not what you use, but ours are right here. Like, you don't, so the cool story of that show, they used our drums and all that. So
Right on.
yeah.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, you saved the day in that regard. Because, yeah, drums and all the pieces are not easy to come by. Like, how many times have I been at a show where the drummer's like, oh, where's this one piece? And all the hunt begins for the one piece. Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Maybe it's whatever. I never know what it is. It's like, where's the stand? Where's this? And the original drummer in Taming Sorry would have me like with the bag beside him pretty much with the cymbals, and he'd be like, cymbal. I'd be like, here you go. Cymbal. Okay. Like I wasn't allowed any like easy time off as a front man. They kept me going. They made sure I was doing a little bit of work all the time. Also, they want to keep me out of their hair because I'll be like, come on, guys, let's get going. And they don't want that.
Exactly.
They don't
you start getting antsy. Yeah. Like my guitar setup is so simple. It's just like head, cabinet, speaker cable, power cord, guitar, done. There we go. All right.
It's nice when it's simple. It's nice. And like,
but then you're standing around there and going like, all right, guys, come on, hurry up.
Yeah, let's go, please, with your 14 pedals and whatnot, or whatever you're doing. No, yeah, I like to make fun of guitar players, but that's just because like I always say, they're the bane of my existence. I rely on them so much,
Oh yeah. The pedals though, like some guys just go insane with it, man. Like this one fella I know, he's playing. He offered. I went to go up for a song. He offered me up his rig anyway. I'm like, oh yeah, cool, thanks, man. And he's like, so this does this and this and this does this. I'm like, okay. I looked at it and I pushed one pedal and it just cut the whole sound out. And I'm like, okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I just just went right in the amp. Like, oh man, I really like the sound we got out of that. What'd you do? I was like, I just went in the amp.
So just ignored whatever you were doing. Just said no.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's funny how sometimes it works out that way. Like we did our own sound at a wedding, and it was like it was great. We couldn't believe it. Like we were our own sound. We just could hear stuff out of our amps and out of the PAs in front of us, and we were like, "Wow, why everything sounded good today? Like what the hell? Like we were so scared." But sometimes if you're just, sometimes you just keep things simple, and it's the best.
Yeah.
So you also have shows. So September 27th, you're going to be acoustic, and November 8th, you're going to be acoustic, and then December 13th, Lakeside Bar and Tattoo. Is that where you are going to be playing on the 27th and November 8th as well?
Yeah. So we there's this little bar in Amherst, man, and it's like literally down the road from where we jam, and it's the best place. Actually, you have to come out for that.
Okay, I will.
Great vibe, man. And we love that place. And so we've been doing a lot of like just once a month we get in there and it's like, we'll do anywhere between 3 to 5 hours. Like we could just go and it's, it's like playing around buddies. Oh yeah. It's like Chris has got his cajon, Adam's got his guitar, I got my guitar and whatever. Sometimes we have bass, sometimes we don't, but it's like playing in buddy's garage and it's like, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We did a blues version of like Afro Man's Colt 45 and like just like random little song. Like it's like somebody like shout out something. And like, all right, well here, give me it. Like we have a list of whatever, but like it's like, hey, let me listen to it for a second and we'll figure it out. And it's always just such a good, you get lost in time. And it's like, you're only supposed to be there for 3 hours, but like, it's like that place, it just glues you and you do not want to leave. And then it's like, next thing you know, it's like, oh crap, guys. Okay. It's like 2:00 in the morning. Like, I got to peel, like, we're in the midst of working on more, like full band shows. A lot of them have not been announced yet. Just like, as far as just like dates and venues, just confirming and firming up and bands, whatever. Actually, I put it's weird because I put posts throughout the year, but like, was last week, I think it was, I put a post on the Kingston area music group on Facebook. Just like, just looking for some bands, whatever. Now it's just like a flood of bands. I'm like, oh, okay, whoa, hang on here. Like, just hang on. We'll get to this, but that's good.
One at a time.
Oh yeah, man. Cause like we're itching to get busy again. Like, Chris got married this year, so we had to be very mindful as far as like conflicting, just things with the wedding and whatever, like stags and bachelor parties.
Mm-hmm.
I was the best man too. So it's like, it was, just try to coordinate everything and keep my head on straight with that. And it's nice to have a little bit slower, whatever. But like, I mean, we're also like, all right, we got to get back to hitting the ground running, so.
Hey, I think you're doing awesome things. Keep going, keep releasing the good music, keep up the good fight. Thank you so much, Jordan, for coming on to the All Worn Out podcast. It was great having you.
No, thanks for having me, man. I really love chatting with you, man. I could go all night.
Right? Well, we'll have to have you back on then in the future. And I will have to come out there to Amherst View and check out this bar and Lakeside Bar and Tattoo and catch you guys in action would be very cool.
Okay.
And yeah. And thank you out there for watching. You should also go check it out. Go see Lowery Mills live. Go check out the links below. I'm going to put their website and all the good stuff where you can go hear their music, etc. and give them some love. So thank you so much again to Jordan, and thank you again to you out there for watching, and we'll see you all next time on All Worn Out. Bye-bye, everybody.
Everyone. Good seeing you, brother.